All right, welcome. Today, we are doing a deep dive into one of the most critical, most strategic processes in the entire project management playbook. And let's be clear, this isn't just about shuffling spreadsheets around. This is about deploying your most valuable assets with precision. Let's get right into it. So, I want to kick things off with a question for you. When a project completely goes off the rails, the budget explodes, deadlines fly by, what's that one thing, that root cause that's almost always hiding in plain sight? Just think about it for a second. It's not always scope creep, not just bad communication. No, it's something even more fundamental than that. And there it is, poor resource management. It is the silent killer of projects, plain and simple. If you fail to properly plan for your people and your materials, you are basically setting yourself up for failure before you even start. The stakes are incredibly high, which is why mastering this process is absolutely non-negotiable for any serious project leader. Okay, so let's get one thing straight from the jump. When we talk about resources, we're really talking about two totally distinct categories. On one hand, you've got your team resources. That's the people, their skills, what they know, and crucially, when they're actually available to work. On the other hand, you have the physical resources. You can just think of this as this stuff: laptops, software licenses, heavy machinery, even the building you're in. A truly world-class plan treats both of these with the exact same level of strategic importance. So, here's our game plan for this briefing. We're going to start with the why, the strategic imperative. Then we'll get into gathering your intelligence, look at the manager's toolkit, and then talk about how to actually create your blueprint. After that, we'll link the plan to real-world action and wrap up with the strategic edge this gives you. Nice and simple. All right, Section 1, the strategic imperative. Let's reframe this right now. Planning your resources is not some boring, administrative, box-ticking exercise. It is a core strategic function that has a direct line to whether or not your project and your organization succeeds. And the official PMBOK guide definition tells you everything you need to know. It's the process of defining how you're going to estimate, get, manage, and use your resources. That word "how" is everything. This isn't a shopping list of what you need. This process creates the playbook, the actual strategy for every single resource decision you'll make later on. So why bother? What's the real benefit of all this upfront work? Well, for starters, it gives you a clear, repeatable approach. It lets you scale your effort. You don't use a sledgehammer to crack a nut. But here's the big one. It forces you to face the reality that resources are scarce and that you're competing for them. This whole process is about being proactive. It's about preventing those costly overruns and delays before they even get a chance to happen. Okay, on to Section 2, gathering your intelligence. Look, you can't build a solid plan out of thin air. You need data, you need context, you need intelligence. This phase is all about collecting and making sense of the essential inputs. I want you to think of this like you're on an intelligence gathering mission. It's got 4 key steps. First, you decode the mandate, which is your project charter. Second, you review all those foundational documents: scope, schedule, the works. Third, you assess the environment you're operating in. These are your enterprise environmental factors, or EEFs. And finally, you leverage the knowledge your own company already has, the organizational process assets, or OPAs. So let's double-click on those first 2 steps. The project charter gives you the big picture. The quality plan tells you about the level of skill or type of material you'll need to hit your standards. The scope baseline, that's your ground truth. It tells you exactly what work needs to be done, which in turn tells you who and what you'll need to do it. And, of course, the schedule tells you when you need them. See, it's all connected. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because you have to look outside the project itself. Your EEFs are the reality of the world you live in, your company's culture, where your teams are located, or what the market is doing to material costs. Your OPAs, on the other hand, are your internal goldmine. We're talking HR policies, safety guidelines, and maybe most importantly, lessons learned from projects that came before yours. Ignoring this stuff is a total rookie mistake. All right, Section 3, the manager's toolkit. We've got our intel. Now it's time to pull out the right tools and techniques to actually structure this plan and make sure everyone is crystal clear on their role. And out of all the tools in the toolbox, there's one that is an absolute game changer when it comes to clarity. It falls under the category of data representation, and it's called the Responsibility Assignment Matrix, or RAM. And this right here is the most popular type of RAM. It's called a RACI chart. Just look at how simple and powerful this is. You've got the tasks down the side, the people across the top, and the grid tells you exactly who does what. See, for collect requirements, Dina is responsible for doing the work, but Ben is ultimately accountable for it. There is zero ambiguity. This is what project management precision looks like. So let's just quickly decode that acronym so we're all on the same page. R is for responsible. These are the doers, the people actually executing the task. A is for accountable. This is the one person who owns the outcome. And listen, here's the golden rule, the one thing you have to get right. There can only be one A per task, period. One owner, no confusion. C is for consulted, your subject matter experts. And I is for informed, the people you just need to keep in the loop. Now, the RACI is fantastic, but it's not the only tool. You're not in this alone, right? That's where expert judgment comes in. Go talk to your HR business partner, your supply chain guru. You also need to apply a little organizational theory. Understanding how your company is structured helps you plan better. And you know what? Never underestimate the power of a few well-run meetings to get everyone aligned and bought into the plan. Okay, on to section 4. So you've done all this hard work, the intel gathering, the analysis. Now what? What's the actual deliverable? You're creating the project's resource blueprint. The main output is, no surprise, the resource management plan. But here's the key. This isn't some side document that sits on a virtual shelf collecting dust. It's a formal, integrated part of your overall project management plan. It becomes the single source of truth for everything to do with resources, from the day you start to the day you finish. So what's under the hood of this plan? Well, pretty much everything. It spells out how you're going to get your people and your stuff. It defines roles and responsibilities. Yep, your RACI chart probably lives here. It lays out the org chart. But it also includes plans for training and developing your team and the nitty-gritty details for how you'll track and control equipment. It's truly comprehensive. And then there's the second output. And honestly, this one's a secret weapon, the team charter. So many teams skip this. This document isn't about what work you're doing, it's about how you agree to work together. It sets the ground rules for communication, for making decisions, for handling conflict. It's the cultural bedrock for a high-performing team. All right, section 5, from plan to action, because a plan is totally useless if it doesn't actually drive what happens next. So let's connect the dots and see how this blueprint fuels the rest of the project. And this right here shows you exactly how it all cascades down. We're here at step 1, creating that blueprint. That plan then becomes a critical input for everything that follows. It guides how you estimate your resources, how you go out and acquire them, how you develop and manage your team, and finally, how you control everything against that original plan. It is the foundation. And that brings us to our final section, your strategic advantage. Let's boil all of this down to the one core idea that you need to take back to your team tomorrow morning. So I'm going to leave you with this question. When you do this, are you just creating another document to check a box for the PMO, or are you forging a strategic weapon? Because a well-crafted, sought-out approach to resources isn't just good project management. It is a genuine competitive advantage that will let you deliver results faster, cheaper, and better than anyone else. That's the real power of the plan.